For as long as I can remember, critics have been measuring the worth of a role-playing game by the length of the adventure. I mean, I can still recall Electronic Gaming Monthly raving about the dozens of hours in Final Fantasy VII, and just a few days ago, I highlighted the insane length in Persona 5 Royal. But an epic journey doesn't always need to take weeks or even months to complete, a fact that is demonstrated beautifully by the thrilling new adventure game Mask of Mists. It's a brief, hyper-focused quest with just the right balance of action and puzzle solving. And best of all, you might be able to beat it while you wait for the week's other big RPG release to download in the background. This is the bite-sized story of a mercenary who is hired to find an archmage. His colleagues at the academy are concerned that he's been abducted or possibly even killed while researching the infected territory. So our nameless hero is sent to explore the surroundings and hunt down clues. But it won't be that simple, because the path is littered with fungi foes who are slowly invading the once peaceful land. What we quickly realize is that in order to save the missing archmage, we're gonna need to activate the portal. Unfortunately, in order to do that, our hero's gonna need to fight through 6 different dungeons, each with their own set of puzzles and gameplay mechanics. For example, one of the mazes will have you breaking crystals in order to open up the doors in the right order, while another will force you to walk through the air on invisible platforms. These are relatively simple concepts that turn more complicated the deeper into the dungeons you go. I like that the game isn't just about hacking and slashing your way to victory. That said, there's definitely a lot of hacking and slashing in Mask of Mists. For most of the game, the mercenary will dual-wield both a sword and a pistol. You'll find upgraded versions of these 2 weapons over the course of the game, but this is your basic loadout. It's great for stabbing nearby enemies and shooting them from afar. And look, you're gonna need to do a lot of both of those things if you want to get to the game's one and only boss. Now, while there's definitely a lot of action, the emphasis here is on exploration and puzzle solving. What I really like about this game is how everything is confined to a small area. There are a lot of classic adventure game themes going on here, especially when it comes to collecting items and using them to open up the interconnected world. Every house, cave, and path has a purpose, and I was constantly impressed by how much the developers were able to do with so little. I couldn't help but get excited every time I found a key, learned a spell, or dug up a hidden item and opened up a new part of the map. I suppose it helps that the world of Mask of Mists is absolutely stunning. It's bright and filled with vibrant colors, all while still conveying that ominous feeling that evil is just around the corner. There are a lot of first-person adventure games on the market that plow very similar ground, so I was happy to see that the cartoony graphics give this game a unique personality. On the other hand, it's a little disappointing that the various dungeons aren't more distinct. There are only a couple of types of dungeons, and they all start to blur together after a while. Of course, you'll barely have time to notice the repeating textures because of the breakneck pacing. This is a speedy game on every single level, and to prove that, our hero basically runs at full sprint the entire time. Look, this is a game that knows that it'll hold your interest for like 3 or 4 hours, so it rushes through everything as quickly as possible in order to hit all the beats. It's a little bit like the Cliff's Notes version of an epic role-playing game. We get the adventure, exploration, combat, collecting, crafting, and puzzle solving we expect from this type of game, only now in a package that you can easily beat in just 1 or 2 sittings. Now, there are some downsides to this approach, as you might expect. Because the game only lasts a few hours, the developers cut corners by including what amounts to just a handful of enemies. There are 4 or 5, depending on whether or not you count the end boss. The rush also means that we never get to know the hero or even get involved in the story. It would have been nice to see a little bit more humor and personality given to the mercenary. And speaking of which, I was also disappointed by the abruptness of the ending. These are sadly the all too predictable shortcomings of a game that is in this much of a hurry. If you love role-playing games but don't have 60 hours to spare, Mask of Mists is a great alternative. This is a fast-paced journey that is both thrilling and compelling, not only giving us a gorgeous world to explore, but also filling it with everything you would expect from a much longer adventure game. Even though it's a little light on the story and the ending could have been a lot more satisfying, Mask of Mists is a finely tuned quest that is surprisingly charming. I dare say that it's good enough to make you completely forget that there's a remake of Final Fantasy VII, at least for a few hours. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now here's the question I have for you. How important is length when buying a game? Are you looking for that 100-hour epic, or are you more into something that you might be able to beat in an afternoon? Let me see your thoughts in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back next week with reviews of Hyper Parasite, Foregon, and Can Androids Pray Blue? Wait, Blue? Yeah, we're gonna have to unpack that name next week when the embargo lifts. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.